Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm one of your co-hosts, Rico Borrego.
I am your other co-host, Tony Borrego.
And this is the podcast known as Relatively Sound, the podcast that does not remind me of anything. Now, today is another special episode for the month because we have our second guest on the show. Tony, why don't you introduce him?
He is the man of the shred, Eshaan Jain. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yo, it's your man of shred, Eshaan Jain.
All right. Okay. Maybe tell the people how you know Eshaan.
So I met Eshaan in middle school, 8th grade, and we both played music. And we started jamming, doing Battle of the Bands, starting a band and everything. And now we're adults. And now we're in the same room talking about music.
And now we have responsibilities.
Yes, life does go on.
And don't forget the one time I did play with you guys in a church as the drummer.
That is right.
Yes, we did Little Wing.
That was actually probably my only live performance I've ever done in front of people other than our family.
That's true.
And the only time I ever played drums in front of people as well.
And that was rehearsed hours before we even did that, right?
Yeah. I think we did a Jimi Hendrix. No, yeah.
Yeah,
Jimi
we did
Hendrix
Little
song.
Wing.
We did one original legato, right?
Wasn't there one more too? Did we do three or was it just
We did
two?
Little Wing.
Was that a Led Zeppelin song or no?
Oh, Heartbreaker?
No.
No, that was for your guys' I think Battle of the Band. But I thought there was another song.
We did Little Wing and two originals.
Yeah, I kind of thought there was another original maybe.
Oh, yeah, Arrow and
legato. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was fun times. But yeah, so today we thought it'd be fun. My last day here to do a podcast with Tony in person. We have another guest on, and today we're talking about the band, possibly some people refer to them as a supergroup, Audioslave. It's the one band that the three of us are pretty familiar with. We all three like them. We don't have too many. Well, we might have controversial takes. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, Tony, would you like to tell everyone who is in Audioslave? Introduce the members.
Right. You got all the musicians of Rage Against the Machine, most notably Tom Morello on the guitar, with Chris Cornell singing it. And so, I mean, I'm just going to take the first shot here and ask you guys. So, who is the best of the three? Rage, Soundgarden, or Audioslave? Who is your favorite?
That's a tough question. I mean, personally, for me, I have bias with Soundgarden because that's just my favorite band. But if we could change the question and make it in between Audioslave, Rage, and Prophets of Rage, I would say it's easily Rage Against the Machine. I don't know, it's because they kind of pioneered that sound.
It's hard for me because I'm only a Chris Cornell fan because of Audioslave. I never could get into him through Soundgarden, which is funny because Pearl Jam's one of my favorite bands. So, you know, I enjoy Matt Cameron. I just didn't really enjoy him in Soundgarden. Now that I do like Soundgarden songs now and certain albums, but I just don't listen to them as much as I do some other grunge bands. But compared to Audioslave to Rage, I never was a Rage fan either. I like some of their bigger songs, but I much prefer Audioslave, which I think is the hot take, because I think most people would pick either Rage or Soundgarden over Audioslave.
I'm with Eshaan. Soundgarden all the way. But I do really love Rage, though. Those three albums of theirs are fantastic. Well, I don't really care about the covers album they did, but
I personally really like Audioslave. It's just there's a couple things. One thing mainly that turns me off about Audioslave is that Brad Wilk is just kind of he's holding back a lot. And I don't know, in Rage he's just going a lot more experimental with his parts. I don't know, is that something that
I totally agree. I feel like, see, Audioslave at their worst feels uninspired to me. I'm not against bands recycling ideas and, you know, being modest and reserved. But I feel like when you have such explosive players like those from Rage, that they ended up just kind of recycling some ideas and then just kind of doing some, I don't know, cookie cutter progressions, you know, kind of dazzled in.
But I also feel like they were totally a different type, their purpose was different than Rage. Like Rage was supposed to be like power to the people. Like, you know, Zach is like singing like about, you know, political things. He's singing about, you know, things that matter.
I believe the word's rapping.
Yeah, rapping, yeah. But they had to make music that hit as hard as his lyrics. Where with Audioslave, it was just like, okay, like Rage disbanded, right? And that's kind of why Audioslave, I believe, was started. Yeah. And I know now that Rage is like, I think together again. I think they were supposed to perform a lot of live shows and then they had to cancel. But I think like with Audioslave, it was just like, we're just gonna jam and have fun. I consider them a supergroup. I mean, it is pretty much just
They
Rage
definitely
minus.
are, they're definitely a supergroup.
But I think I like them more because they have progression. Like to be fair, I've not heard all 3 Rage albums, just songs from each ones. But I feel like there's definitely more variety in Audioslaves, even with just their 3 albums. I feel like there's more variety.
I kind of want to disagree a little bit. So I think technically there is more variety, but I think Rage actually did have quite a progression. Their first album basically just being rock riffs, and their second album really kind of incorporating a little more of the hip hop sounds, where their third album it's very like fleshed out, a lot of hip hop things going on, whether it's like the drum beats, the tones, the production.
I kind of feel like Audioslave has more of a contemporary approach to like song structure and stuff like that. Rage was a lot more like, I feel like free form. Like, I don't know the right word for it, but seemed a lot more experimental back then with a lot of them, especially like Tom Morello, like being one of the first to do like his whole DJ sound on his guitar and stuff, and like they're just like all figuring out new sounds in their songs and stuff. But then Audioslave, they already know what they're capable of at that point, so like I don't know, they're just playing around with what they already know.
Maybe they didn't feel like they had as much to prove at that point because they're
established.
Yeah, broke ground for people.
But I feel like also the 3 members of Rage also had to write music slightly different because they had a different type of vocalist. Again, like Tony said, Zach is like rapping. I mean, is there ever like a song where he actually sings like melodies, or is it mostly just rapping and like screaming, yelling?
I mean, Know Your Enemy, he like sings a little bit in the bridge, but like...
Well, what's the bridge part? What are we talking about?
Oh, man.
No, that's Maynard Keenan, I think.
No. Is it really?
Yeah, I think so.
The lead singer of Tool? Is that what you're talking about?
I got no patience.
Yeah, he's on it for that part.
Really?
I'm 90% sure.
They had to outsource for a singer for the song.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
The one vocal melody in the discography wasn't even Zach.
But with Audioslave, you have Chris Cornell, who, you know, doesn't rap. I mean, unless you've heard his album Scream. But like he's just straightforward, sings, and I think a lot of people, when their debut album came out in 2001, self-titled, a lot of people, especially critics, did not like it, mainly because they did not like Chris's vocals on that album. And I will defend that album because I actually prefer his vocals then than in his heyday in Soundgarden, which I know is a hot take. I know I will get a lot of flack for that, but
you're gonna get shot for that. So what? The opening track on their debut record is Cochise, right?
Cochise. That's how I say it.
Cochise.
Does anyone know what it means?
No. I think I looked it up a long time ago.
Weren't you giving me crap in the other episode for not knowing what the title was and not looking it up?
No, don't worry. I'm going to be dropping a lot of things on you in this episode that you'll have no idea. But you're referencing that song because he does a huge yell in like the after the bridge.
Yes. Now, I am someone that doesn't really care for how he sounds on that record or the Out of Exile record. I think he sounds decent on Revelations, but most performances I don't love of his. But I mean, for a debut song on a debut album, that is pretty epic vocally, you know?
So where do you stand, Eshaan? Because I love his vocals. Tony really doesn't.
I mean, I love his vocals and Soundgarden, don't get me wrong.
I'm just talking about just that debut album, Audioslave album.
Yes. Now, Eshaan's actually a screamer a little bit here, so he can speak about it.
I mean, okay, let's see what we got. I'm not good at like recalling songs off my head.
I'm actually, you have Cochise, you have Like a Stone, Show Me How to Live.
Shadow on the Sun, I love that song. Bring Them Back Alive, that's a really good vocal performance.
Yeah, okay, I do agree. Those two, he does sound great on.
Last Remaining Light's a really good vocal performance, and you even have like slower ones like Getaway Car.
Underrated song.
I mean, oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, Gasoline he does sound epic in.
Yeah, I don't...
Like a Stone, I mean, yeah, it's a really, like, up there song, but I think it's a great song, you know?
I hate the way he sings it, though. He sounds so bored.
But are people just... I feel like people are just disappointed because they were expecting, like, the fierce Soundgarden sound, and then with Audioslave... and then some people were expecting the fierce Rage sound, and then, like Eshaan said, you get something more contemporary, more mainstream sounding. And I bet you that's why people were disappointed.
You know, whenever I hear Chris Cornell in this band, I just think Harley Davidson.
Well, Tony asked me last night when we were re-listening to Out of Exile, he was like, "Is this butt rock?" And I said no, but I mean, like, yeah, it's... But that's why I love their first album, because their first album is pretty heavy compared to their following two albums. It's not heavy like Rage or some of the more heavy Soundgarden songs, but, like, it's got great grooves.
I think Hypnotize is a dope song, too.
Yeah, that's
like my favorite off the album.
That's kind of like the experimental thing I'm talking about. Like, it's like a slow tuned guitar, and then like kind of like a weird bass line, and then the groove comes in, and then you're like, oh, that's what it's supposed to sound like, you know?
That's the most Rage song on that album.
For sure.
In the best way
For
possible.
Sure, yeah.
And though I can't confirm it, I'm pretty sure Tom Morello was inspired by the opening song to the video game Tekken 3 when he was writing Hypnotized, because Tony and I played it last night, and the opening song is just like... it has the same exact like vibe to it.
We'll show you, Eshaan. There's no way it's not inspired.
But no, the debut album I love. I don't love... I think it's a little long. It doesn't... There's a couple songs that aren't my favorite. The closing song is actually not one of my favorites. But I love Getaway Car.
Getaway Cars are great.
I love the singles. My favorite probably is Gasoline. That song is just like... It's a good mix of like the rock and then the kind of more like... The verse is very chill. The bass line and that weird... I don't know what effect Tom Morello has, or maybe, you know, it's like... I don't know what it's like, tremolo, but like
what on the verse of Gasoline?
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh,
what would they?
It's probably tremolo. It's like a hard cut like tremolo thing.
Definitely trem then.
Yeah, like there's really cool. Now my only issue with the album is sometimes Tom Morello's guitar solos on it go from like cool to like dumb.
In Rage, he's way more consistent.
Nah, that
with
solo and Bring 'Em Back Alive is like it could have been.
Oh yeah, I know
it's
which
like so
one.
on
Yeah.
the edge of being cool, but it's like it's not. It just doesn't fit in there, man.
Yeah, that one I think is the one every time I listen to that album, I'm like, yeah.
It kind of seemed like he was like, you know what? Maybe if I keep doing it, like people will start to get it.
That sounds like me when I'm trying to write a guitar solo for my song and I like don't know what key it's in. I'm like trying to find it. And I'm like going up and down, like come on. But yeah, that song, like, but I mean, there are some really good solos and stuff. But to me, that album is really. I know you guys were saying the drums in an Audioslave are kind of weaker compared to Rage.
And the production of them
consistently
really
weaker though.
But I think the bass is what really shines on, especially their first album. Like half the songs feel like the groove is in like the bass playing. I mean, I don't know if that's.
I mean, but you could say
is.
that about Rage though too, because like there's a lot of slat bass lines in Rage too, and.
I feel like the bass in Rage was still more creative, but I do think transitioning from Rage to Audioslave, Tim did stay the most consistent, and not saying that he has to be stuck in the style, but it still felt like bass lines that were like maybe true to him, you know?
I kind of disagree. I feel like Tim also kind of like went back a little bit, but I also think it's because they're trying to give room to another melodic part that's added to Rage, right? So Chris Cornell is like doing all these melodies and stuff. He's singing. He's not rapping anymore. Or like there's no Zach in this band.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to create extra space, I guess.
Okay, that's a fantastic point, but I'm going to disprove your point with one letter and one word. 5-string.
That is not one.
Tim played a 5-string bass.
Well, actually, I mean, it's one word and it's one letter.
It was not a 5-string. It was a 4-string tuned BEAD.
You just disproved me.
See, and this is why we have Eshaan on this episode, because I didn't know what. I mean, I know what you guys are talking about, but I had none of that knowledge previously. So, but
I'm happy to be an addition.
Tony, I'm curious. You said you didn't like the production on this album or like all their albums, because would it surprise you if I said this album and their second album was produced by Rick Rubin?
Okay, I think I think Out of Exile has the worst production
I
on top
agree.
of my head.
I actually don't know what happened between Rick Rubin and the band between the first and second one.
Because, okay, first and third record, those sound like 2000s rock production, which isn't my favorite. Like, obviously it's dated, but they're still listenable. But, like, Out of Exile, like, the drums sound so one-dimensional. And, like, I don't know, the guitars are kind of awkwardly dry. And it just doesn't work for me. And Chris needs all the production help he can get with his voice, so...
But you could arguably say that Out of Exile has one of the songs that has some of the best drumming on an Audioslave song, which is Man or Animal. That intro with the drumming where it just goes ham, like that, ooh.
With
That's
the yell on
highlight.
top of it, too.
Yeah, I think at the end, right, when they're like wrapping it up and like kind of does the intro again, like that's fantastic.
What song was it that you liked a lot again? It was The Worm, or was it Moth?
Well, Moth has a sick riff. You're talking about that one?
Is either those two that you really like?
Well, okay, Moth has like an epic riff. Although remember, like we were talking kind of trash about the vocal melody on it, though.
It was, yeah. It's
now you're a Moth fan, and you were talking about the transition to Moth last night.
Yeah, the song before it on the album, Nothing Left to Say But Goodbye, which is, I think, the most underrated song on that album. It has one of those seamless transitions where you can hear the beginning of Moth at the very end of Nothing Left to Say But Goodbye. And,
I like that in albums.
I like when albums do that. I will say it's a little random because, like, they don't ever do it on the rest of the album or any of their albums. But another thing, I don't know if you guys, well, I know Tony didn't because I told him last night, but on their song Draw Me Slowly on Out of Exile, the bridge, you have Chris Cornell doing two vocal parts. He starts singing, and then there's background vocals of him. Those background vocals he ended up reusing on the next album on the song Sound of a Gun.
Oh, wow.
During, I think, the third verse of bridge of that song. And I love when bands do that. And I only found out about that recently because Out of Exile, I only listen to every now and again. When I'm like not sure what I want to listen to, I'm like, oh yeah, I always forget about this album. Like, I only know half the songs by name, and I'm usually really good about that. But like, I don't know. I can't tell you how The Worm sounds like. I can't tell you how Number One Curse sounds like. Or The Curse. Well, see, I can't even remember what they're called.
The Curse and Number One Zero.
Yeah, there you go. Like that last half, I do not remember. It does have some good songs. I think Be Yourself is the best on the album.
I do like Doesn't Remind Me.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a classic.
Best lyrics of any Audioslave song.
But I really like it though too because it's not a rage song anymore by any means. It's just a classic rock song.
That's what happened with Out of Exile. They totally changed direction, and it's funny because I read online this morning that critics much preferred Out of Exile because they decided to either adapt to a new sound or there was growth or...
It kind of felt fresh. I don't know.
At least for them, yeah. I mean, for the 2000s era, like, you know, it doesn't sound dated to me, but it does have kind of a classic rock feel.
Like, how many, like, F-sharp octaves can I take, you know?
That song is really cool. Like, I just like the lyrics. Like Tony said, like, the lyrics where he's just coming up with, like, random, like, you know, it's like, I like when bands do that. They take I'm just going to change a couple words in each, you know, line of the verse, and he just adds really cool creative things to it. So, yeah, that song I really like. I like Be Yourself a lot, even though it was, like, another big single.
I do like a lot of Chris Cornell's lyrics in this band.
Really?
Yeah. Like, even in the self-titled album, like, Last Remaining Light has some, like, really cool imagery in some of the lyrics.
I don't really know most of the lyrics of the songs,
Getaway
to be
Car, I
honest.
like the lyrics a lot on that one. Shadow of the Sun is maybe lyrically my favorite on that album.
Especially the ending when he only repeats Shadow on the Sun.
Yeah, like 20 times, yeah. But I like... My favorite is actually the third album, probably. I will say the first album I think is maybe their best just musically because it just hits hard. And it's an album I can put on a lot of the time because, like, I don't know, the songs come on and you're just like, you're grooving to them. Where the second album, you don't have a bad listening experience. You're just kind of like, it's over and then you're like, okay, like you don't remember any of it.
And the second album, to me, the album cover speaks for the album itself. Bland.
Yeah, Tony really does not like the second album.
Jeez.
It's forgettable. Okay?
I mean, Heaven's Dead is a great song.
Okay, yeah,
I do like
Heaven's
that. I
Dead.
do like that one, yeah. But that's why I like their progression because like that is not a Soundgarden song. At least I don't consider it. Definitely not a Rage song. Like I feel
is it a Chris solo song? Because it doesn't remind me. Kind of is. You know, I'm not sure how Audioslave
he did that in his songbook live album.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I've only heard, I think, 2. I've never heard actually his first solo album.
Euphoria.
Yeah, I've never heard. I've only heard a couple songs.
Yeah, same. I haven't heard the entire thing, but there's some pretty good stuff on there.
I do like a lot of the songs off that second one. Maybe it's just self-titled. The one that has the James Bond theme on it.
Oh man.
I think has this cover of Billie Jean as well.
That is a pretty good cover, actually.
Yeah,
it's like it's dark and it's
yeah, it is cool.
I like it.
But I know he released a couple solo albums after that. One of them being Scream, which was the infamous hip hop Timbaland produced album. Yeah. Which,
I mean, I don't think it was horrible, but I don't think it was good either. It was like kind of in the middle for me.
It had a couple good songs. There's one that was called like Long Gone that was really good, and then he did like a rock version of it, which sounded just like a normal Chris Cornell song.
Yeah.
But there was one called like Part of Me or something, Part of You. That's the one that sounds the most like Timberland.
Damn, that bitch ain't a part.
Yeah, and you hear that line. You hear him call someone a bitch, and I'm like, that's not Chris Cornell. Like, you wouldn't do that. Like, what?
Did you forget about the unreleased Soundgarden song "Cold Bitch"?
Oh,
I mean,
I don't know.
That song's actually not bad.
Did you forget about "Burden in My Hand"?
But I feel
Bang,
like
bang.
on the Scream album, it's like derogatory, or maybe not so much in the Soundgarden songs. You know, like I know he swears, but it just sounded like a weird line for him to sing.
In Gun, fuck it up.
But going back to Revelations, Audioslave's third album. That album to me just sounds like completely different. It sounds more like Out of Exile, but more energetic, more like focused. And there's like variety. Like not every song sounds the same. Like you have songs like One and the Same and Original Fire that has kind of like a soul funk kind of thing going on.
I do like that song. You
still have the heavy ones like Moth, Broken City, Jewel of the Summertime. And then you kind of have some more like, I don't know what to call them. Like they have some that are like not ballads, but they're softer moments. Like Son of a Gun, the verses are kind of softer. Until We Fall is like an acoustic, almost country ballad with like, it's mostly just acoustic guitars. And those are cool moments that I feel like you don't really get on the first 2 albums.
And I feel like the vocals, like even just like the composition of the vocals are kind of better on that album. Like Some Days is really cool. Like the melody and like how they do like the backing vocals with it. And that feels like an Audioslave. It doesn't feel like a Rage song or a Soundgarden. Like I feel like that's a good example of
I feel like I'm
Audioslave.
I don't know this album that well.
Yeah, well, okay. So Wide Awake's a good one I wanted to point out because I was doing a little reading this morning, and when Audioslave first started, Chris Cornell was like, I'm not going to make this a political band. He's like, I don't want it. And he, as far as I know, he probably in Soundgarden didn't really have any political songs. Mm-hmm. At least not like
I don't know. He writes really vague, so it's kind of hard.
It's hard to know. Yeah,
it's hard to pinpoint.
But on Revelation, specifically Wide Awake and Sound of a Gun, he starts writing more political. Sound of a Gun kind of being about like the rise in violence and guns and stuff. And that album came out like I think in 2006 or something. So it's even more relevant today than it was even back then. And then Wide Awake was about the Bush administration and how poorly they handled Hurricane Katrina, specifically. The first line is like, you can look a hurricane right in the eye. And then the chorus is him like saying how he can't go to sleep knowing that our president, George Bush at the time, he was sleeping during, something as bad as Hurricane Katrina and everything that happened after that. So
what's the cyclone he's talking about in Getaway Car?
That I don't know. I mean, that predates quite a bit, but I feel like on that album too, there was more focus, like songwriting, like lyrically too. Mm-hmm. I like the lyrics a lot though, like on like Doesn't Remind Me, and I actually really like the lyrics in Like a Stone, even I know that's like the most basic Audioslave song there is. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, Soundgarden, I just never could get into them. Because I felt like the few songs that I could understand the lyrics, they didn't hit me like a Pearl Jam song would, something like that.
I used to like a lot of Chris's lyrics, but I don't know. Kind of over time, I've kind of...
As he aged, you can definitely see that his lyrics also kind of aged with him.
and his vocal melodies got more cliche.
A little bit, yeah.
But it's funny because, I think on the third album, he sounds so good. And I know a lot of people didn't really love that Soundgarden reunion album that came after it.
Oh, he
King
sounded
Animal?
great on that.
Yeah.
King Animal's a great album.
He sounds better on that than any
I read a lot of
Audioslave
people
album.
that didn't like. Maybe it wasn't the singing, but it was more like the lyrics and like the songs themselves. People didn't like.
Maybe they're not satisfied because he's not like doing blood curdling screams in it or something.
Yeah, he finally wanted to give people's ears a break, you know? Because the screaming's great, but it does get a little old. And I thought King Animal was like a mature kind of reunion. I do think there's probably like maybe like 3 or 4 songs that could have been stronger. Eyelid's Mouth. But doesn't Matt Cameron's son play on that one?
I don't know about
the
that.
guitar? No?
Really? I don't know
I think
that.
that sounds right because I think one time during a Pearl Jam show, he brought his son up to play guitar and like rocking in the free world. So I think that.
I mean,
that
Scott
makes sense.
Weiland's son did the opening to Dead and Bloated one time live.
Well,
Oh, wasn't he like 4 though?
Yeah.
but
I forgot about that.
the one thing I wanted to point out was that it's weird. It's weird to imagine a timeline where an Audioslave reunion could have happened. Because I don't know if you guys remember, like, maybe it was like 2017. They did some show.
Yeah.
With-
January.
Yeah. Oh, it was something to do with when Trump was elected president.
Yeah, they did like a protest show.
Yeah, and it was like Rage, right? Or it was.
It was Audioslave.
But oh yeah, Audioslave did like a small set, right? Like, you know, I don't think it was a full show, but they did like a small set. Mm-hmm. And I will say, listening to it, that was the thing. Live, Chris Cornell. I think that's the problem. People saw. I think when even the first album came out, people saw like their performances like on TV, maybe like when they did that Letterman performance. Mm-hmm. And yeah, live he sounded off. But I think at the studio he sounded fantastic on all 3 albums.
Any recording you hear from 1995, ooh, he's hitting everything.
Yeah, so everything, 2000s, I think live, he just wasn't on his game,
Well, Eshaan, didn't you show me a sick performance of Shadow on the Sun?
Oh yes, yeah. He did one performance of Shadow in the Sun, and I think that was like 2008. No,
I mean, granted, that's one performance out of how many years this band's been
He did like probably like a solo, like with his solo band.
oh no, it was with Audioslave.
Oh, was it with Audioslave? Was it that show?
Not that one. No, not the 2017.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
Okay. But there was after that show they did, Chris Cornell talked in interviews about trying to do another album or do another tour with Audioslave. Unfortunately, when he passed away, obviously nothing ended up happening. But I did read even after the third album, Tom Morello mentioning that there was unreleased songs that they would maybe release sometime in the future.
That's the same case with Soundgarden too, because like I think they were on that tour to get some money for an 8th album.
Yeah. So it'd be really interesting to. I know since he's passed, they released like already like 2 different compilation like albums, like one of covers and then one of just like a best of. Mm-hmm. But it's gonna be interesting to see if they like pull songs from his different projects. I would love to hear more Audioslave songs, because for really any of the eras, like any of the albums, because I feel like they're just so different than Rage or Soundgarden that they kind of have something new to offer. Because I think the last live thing he really did, I want to say, was that Temple of the Dog reunion tour.
The last live thing he did?
Wasn't it?
He died on tour.
Soundgarden, that's right. Soundgarden was doing a tour, right?
Yeah.
For a new album. Yeah, that's right. But because the one thing I remember was that Temple of the Dog reunion tour.
Didn't you send me like a bad clip of Hunger Strike from that tour? Or was that like an old performance?
No, that was short-haired Chris.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was probably from Audioslave because I looked at some of their sets and for a while they weren't doing any covers of either Soundgarden songs or Rage because they specifically said we want to be our own band. Mm-hmm. So they were doing like other random covers like Jimi Hendrix's like Fire and Hunger Strike.
I know that they did Audioslave did Loud Love because it's like a really Rage Soundgarden song.
Well, yeah, because so then fast forward a couple years later, they're finally like, oh, I think it's cool enough now. So they started doing Soundgarden songs. They did a couple Rage songs, I think.
They did Sleep Now on the Fire, I think.
Yeah.
I think
And Bulls.
I thought I saw Killing the Name of myself maybe on.
They did that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they started doing like those covers as well. And then I think they did Hunger Strike and
May I pose a fun question?
yeah.
Okay, so with Audioslave, they've done some Soundgarden songs. Now, could you imagine if Rage got back together and they covered a Audioslave song? Which one do you think they would cover?
So pretty much, which one can Zach rap to?
Yeah. Which one could Zach do justice to?
Hypnotize. He could do that. Would be kind of cool.
I was actually just about to say that because like the verse vocal melody is very like no.
He kind of speaks it to where it could be kind of rap. They could do it a little faster,
and it's not like too like crazy in range either. Like what's the chorus in that song again?
Just the don't you keep your good love to yourself.
Yeah, and then there's like the octaves in the studio performance, but like Zach wouldn't do that.
It's fine.
Like,
We'll let Tim do it.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. I mean,
Can we start a Patreon for that?
Well, I think Rage, they are back together. I don't think they're like doing more like recordings, but they're doing live shows. I think Zach, like, he fell off stage last year maybe, or the year before when they were touring, and he like broke his ankle or something. So they had to stop the tour, but they're, I think, headlining some shows this year. So you never know. Do you guys remember after Chris Cornell passed away, Prophets of Rage? Mm-hmm. They were joined by Surge from System of a Down, and they covered. Oh, you know what? They covered Like a Stone. Tony knows that.
And wasn't it trash?
I know that.
Yeah, and it, unfortunately, it was not very good. I mean,
I wouldn't say trash, but it was just like.
Yeah.
I mean,
Surge kind of dropped the ball.
Surge has set a standard for himself, and also Like a Stone has its own standard as well. And that wasn't really delivered in that performance, but it wasn't trash.
No,
that's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I know it was. That's a hard song to sing. I've tried covering Like a Stone because it's like the easiest one to play, like acoustically or whatever. It's hard. Yeah, it's even. I'm trying to think of like the easiest Audioslave.
Doesn't remind me
Is the easiest. The chorus is still hard. I've done Getaway Car a couple times, but even that, the chorus, it sneaks up on you if you're not.
Na, na, na.
Yeah,
that's hard.
It's hard. The verses, it kind of fools you because the verses are super easy. Like, no problem.
Yeah, try Hypnotize.
I'll have to try. I don't know.
Tune it while you're on acoustic.
Speaking of like sound effects, we also got to point out the what even Tom Morello has classified as the Laughing Monkey solo in Original Fire.
I think that as far as Audioslave solos, I say it's top 10. I think that one's actually pretty sick. That's a Rage moment that actually fits the song and elevates it.
Even on Wikipedia, it's titled, there's a section called Laughing Monkey Solo because it sounds kind of like,
like its own tab?
Yeah. He probably teaches it in his master classes.
Yeah, I know he was showing the, like the Coach Eyes intro. He shows he was like hits his pen with like delay on it.
Yeah, because what is that sound? That's kind of
this or something over the pickup.
So it's like
there's so many different effects he makes. It's just what is for what, you know?
I know there's a song on the first album. I think it's Exploder, where it has a really crazy, weird intro where I don't even. It has to be guitar, but when I first heard the song, I'm like, I didn't even know what instrument it was. Like, it was just a weird sounding intro.
You know, on the Rage albums and like the liner notes, they like list all sounds are made from guitar, bass, drums, and voice and stuff. And it was kind of a little bit cheating because on their third record they accidentally caught like an airplane noise or something through the amp. I mean that's kind of a stretch. I don't think that's from your guitar. Yeah, right. They're broadcasting.
That's weird.
They call it Channel 9 News. Got it in their studio take.
Now, Tony, real quick, you mentioned not liking the production on the albums, right?
The confirmative.
But what album, if you had to give it for production, would you?
Probably Revelations. Just because it's. I don't think the production's bad on the first record, and I really dig the album cover, by the way. It's kind of funny, but like
that contributes to the music.
It does. Well, it enhances the experience.
Well, okay. Let's say, really quick before I go on with my producer story. Talking about the album cover, Revelations, just for since this isn't a visual podcast, it's just like a picture of the world, right? Like Earth, like an aerial shot from space, right? If I recall, they did something when the promotion for the album when it was released. Google Maps put randomly in some random ocean, like the Pacific Ocean. They created an island and called it like Audio Island or something, where people interactively can go like visit it on Google Maps.
What the heck?
Yeah, I learned that today when I was
researching. And then they just decide to blow it up? Like, what's up with that?
It's like some Death Star looking stuff.
But going back to producer, can you guess who produced Revelation? Because it's not Rick Rubin who did the first two.
Well, there's bass in it, so it can't be Brendan O'Brien.
No, it is indeed the friend of the podcast, Brendan O'Brien.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, we've had already some discussions about Brendan O'Brien on the podcast because he produced Light Grenades, Tony's suggestion, some months ago, and then he also did the Stone Temple Pilots album, I believe.
Right. Which surprisingly does have
Which one?
Decent Shangri-La Di-Da.
Ah.
I think he also does number 4, but number 4 does not have good production, in my opinion.
Yeah, and as a Pearl Jam fan, like he's done like all but I think like maybe 3 of their albums. I'm iffy on him because I think when he's great, he's like really great, and then when it's bad, it doesn't hurt the album, but it almost does. But I think on Revelations, I actually really like it. Like it is less bass heavy, but I also think that's just the songwriting. Like the bass is way heavier on Audioslave's self-titled album for sure. Even on probably Out of Exile, I think it's heavier. But, you know, I like the sound of it.
Oh, well, he definitely topped the Reuben then from Out of Exile.
I'm curious why they swapped, you know? Like I'm always curious when a producer like
Probably because he sucked on the second try. Like they're like, "Oh,
Damn.
great. This album's good." And they're like, "Oh, crap, you ruined the second album. Let's get someone else."
People probably would have liked it better though if Rick Rubin would have produced the third one, because I don't think the third album got a lot of acclaim. I think I even read today it sold way less than the first 2 albums.
Really?
Yeah, like the second album, even though the first album probably had the bigger singles like Cochise, Show Me How to Live, and Like a Stone, the second album the critics really liked it, and it did have Be Yourself and Doesn't Remind Me, which
and Show Me How to Live. No, sorry.
That's what.
Never mind.
You know, but Show Me How to Live is kind of like the most Soundgarden-y like chorus of Audioslave.
Speaking of Show Me How to Live, did you guys when they did that tribute concert for Chris Cornell at like that venue in Hollywood that I cannot think of?
Eshaan, you live there.
Whatever.
They I think they had like the members of Audioslave, members of Rage, and Dave Grohl came up and sang "Show Me How to Live." So it was pretty much Audioslave, but instead of Chris Cornell, it was Dave Grohl.
Oh, you're talking about the one with like Miley Cyrus and like
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Josh Homme was there.
What did he cover?
He did Rusty Cage,
the Johnny Cash version.
So was Buzz. What's his name?
Buzz Osborne.
Yeah.
What did he do?
I think he did "I Awake" on guitar.
Oh, that sounds sick.
and then
And Taylor Hawkins sang it.
Dave Grohl butchered No Attention.
Oh yeah, I mean he was just really high energy for that performance. So
He was just trying to do his thing where he screams the whole thing.
Would you believe me if I said Adam Levine was also there and did a song? And not only that, but he did a song with Stone Gossard.
Wait.
I mean, I do believe you because I watched it all on YouTube. So.
What about Tony? Because
Okay. What song did they do?
Seasons from the.
Oh, nice.
Was that
I
from
don't
the
remember that,
Euphoria
actually.
morning? Or was that on the single soundtrack?
No, single soundtrack.
Single
Yeah.
soundtrack, yeah.
I don't know how Seasons go. I know everyone talks about how good of a song
It's a
it
pretty
is.
acoustic one.
Okay, I know it's in an open tuning with like a capo, but like no melody is gonna remind me.
But
what it is.
surprisingly, Adam Levine fit for it because it is like a softer sound.
You know, surprisingly, out of all the rockers there, I feel like Miley Cyrus did a very outstanding
What did she do? Because I don't remember
She
watching
did,
it.
the Temple of Dog song. Say Hello to Heaven.
Oh, okay. That would be.
But, like,
See,
even
I'm not
so-
surprised though. Miley's a boss.
Dude, she is good, man.
She's crazy good.
We'll have to do an episode on her because I don't like her. Just purely for her. I actually don't like her vocals. I wouldn't say that she's not talented. I just don't like her vocals.
I think
She
she stood her ground against all these other rockers though, for sure, during that whole performance for the Chris Cornell thing.
Yeah, well, I do think a lot of the rockers there were the older ones. Like even Dave Grohl and Josh Homme, like they're not really young anymore. You know, like they're, you know. But yeah, it is hard to be a female and to be like not as popular in that world of rock and be able to withstand your own.
She does a sick cover of Zombie from the Cranberries, which I hate that song, but she made it cool. So just throwing that out there.
Oh, speaking of covers, just only because we were talking about Rage, I don't like the cover of Bruce Springsteen's "The Ghost of Tom Joad."
I don't know how most of those songs go because I didn't like most of the covers really. I mean, some of them are cool, like I don't know. I mean, basically they were just like, okay, what's a song we like the lyrics of? Okay, now let's put a rage riff to it.
Well, I mean, yeah, lyrically,
Come on, Renegades of Funk. Are you serious right now?
lyrically, it is like a Rage song. It's more storytelling. Like, it's definitely like a Bruce Springsteen song where he's telling a story. Where, as far as I know, Rage isn't like that. Rage is more like, here are like a bunch of political statements, right?
Yeah, they got sick bars.
But the main theme of the Ghost of Tom Joad is kind of about like lower class and stuff like that, which is, I feel like, Rage. But I don't like their cover. Like, maybe just because I'm not used to like a Bruce Springsteen song sounding like a Rage Against the Machine song.
Well,
like,
clearly
that's
the
contrast.
boss liked it. If he hired Tom Morello to play guitar for him,
That
on
is true.
tour.
Yeah, during one of his tours, because one of his albums, the Bruce Springsteen compilation album, he recruited Tom Morello to like fill in a bunch of guitars on songs that he hadn't finished, and they did a re-recorded version of the Ghost of Tom Joad where it was like a mix between the two versions, where there's like, it starts off like a Bruce Springsteen version, but then Tom Morello's guitar comes in and he has like a 3-minute guitar solo. But it sounds cool. It's like, it sounds like he's dueling himself. Like, it sounds like he's going back and forth between another guitarist, but it's just him the whole time.
And he's not touching the guitar the whole time.
Yeah.
He's just tap dancing.
Yeah, right.
I think he was reminded of his Guitar Hero days where he had to do the guitar battling. Mm-hmm. But it was like, I like that version more than the Rage version. But yeah, then he went on tour with the E Street Band with Bruce Springsteen. Yeah, that was the compilation album. And he like toured most of the dates, and just, you know, he played Bruce Springsteen. It's not like he made, you know, Bruce sing like Killing in the Name of.
Didn't he do his DJ scratching though?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that on the Tom Joad cover, but it fits. Hey, it's better than the Tom Morello cover of Highway to Hell with Bruce Springsteen and Eddie Vedder.
Yeah, that one's trash.
Yes.
Have you heard that, Eshaan?
I just feel like any of these songs with like a bunch of rockers pulled from all these bands, like they never really turn out good. Like there's this one Corey Taylor song with like Dave Grohl in it, and it's like called From Can to Can't or something like that.
Okay, I will defend that because I am not a Corey Taylor fan. Any Corey Taylor
except
things,
for Stone Sour.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. The only things I like from him are the slower kind of Stone Sour songs from like the first album, because I just don't like Slipknot. But I actually like that song.
Really?
I like I have the whole album on vinyl. It was Dave Grohl did a documentary called Sound City where he talks about the famous recording studio called Sound City. And yeah, it's like there's a song, like a really rock song that like Rick Springfield sings. There's Stevie Nicks song. There's a Josh Homme song featuring Dave Grohl and Trent Reznor.
Centipede?
Yes. Yeah, Centipede. No, the one that has Trent Reznor, I think, is called Mantra.
Oh, I don't know that one then.
Yeah. Then there's a guy from Cheap Trick, the guitarist. I can't think of his name.
Ricky Nelson.
Yeah, he's on one of the songs, and that's kind of a cool. I mean, it probably doesn't sound good. It probably sounds more like what Eshaan normally describes, which is like, yeah, when you have the Highway to Hell cover is not good. But that one didn't have a purpose. Like, at least the Corey Taylor song was like an original.
Fucking like Dream On with Dio and Yngwie Malmsteen like, come on.
Another unpopular opinion. I hate Dream On. I hate Aerosmith.
Dude, Dream On's beautiful.
Yeah.
And Aerosmith, I must say, Aerosmith is the best in their prime, best classic rock band of the 70s for me.
I have a lot of respect for Aerosmith for sure.
No, I can't do it.
Everything about them, when they're good, everything about them's great.
Except for like Joe Perry dueling himself in that one gig.
I should re-go that. Dude, every time I watch it, it's just as funny. We're gonna watch it after, okay?
The only thing I like about Aerosmith is like the bass line to Sweet Emotions, and like that's about it.
That's actually a pretty hard bass line. I remember trying to learn that like 8 years ago.
What about the Walk This Way solo? That's fantastic.
No, I don't really like Joe Perry. And I hate Steven Tyler, so
whoa. You would have no Slash without Joe Perry. He's like Jimmy Page licks mixed with horn player licks.
I think I can live in a world without Slash. Surprisingly not. I think I could.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. Another hot take. Yeah. I would miss the couple of songs he does with Miles Kennedy's, not the full albums, but just like the two from Slash's second solo album. But yeah.
It's okay, Eshaan. I forgive him because he still would love A World with Buckethead and Bumblefoot playing with Axl.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I actually think Chinese Democracy is their most interesting album.
I do think about half the songs
are
great.
Experimental stuff. That's why I like Soundgarden. It's because like they're like weird with their music and stuff.
There's still not a band like Soundgarden. Let me say that. And I guess there's still not a band like Audioslave. Well, actually, no, there is Rage.
But what about like what about a band like the Melvins? Like, I don't know any of their music, but I saw them open up for the Raconteurs a couple years ago, and like, man, they are. I know you used to listen to them growing up.
I saw them live once. They played like 2 songs live, and it was like a 40-minute set.
We were literally up front because I won tickets that were all the way front stage, and we were right next to the monitors, and they like, almost blew out my ears. Like, yeah, it was.
But they're so good though.
We moshed in the Cannibal Corpse concert though. That was pretty sick.
Yeah. You know, when you're there in a concert, it doesn't really matter what it is as long as the energy's good and the band's not trash.
I will say this: if Audioslave would have reunited and not even done another album, but just played live again, I would have went and seen them. I would have bought tickets.
But if it's Audioslave, like, who do you want to be?
No. And I mean, if there was a timeline where Chris Cornell was still alive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't want. I definitely don't want. I don't think Audioslave should exist anymore. Mm-hmm. I will say that, like, because then it's like it would feel like another fake supergroup. Mm-hmm. It'd be like a supergroup filling in for an already supergroup.
Have you guys heard of any Prophet of Rage songs? I really haven't.
I heard like half of one and I got tired.
Yeah, I mean,
so Rage is retired officially, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the closest thing I got was that Surge performance where it was Prophets of Rage.
They're like literally a rap group. It was
okay. That's what I thought.
It was 3 rappers.
Yeah, I can't think of the group, but yeah, it was another supergroup basically where it was like Rage and
Run DMC and no.
Oh, Aerosmith collab. There we go.
No.
I mean that's a collab I can tolerate.
Yeah, I feel like rap
that.
collabs are better than like rock collabs.
Like Eminem and Rihanna, dude.
Kanye and Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Lee. Wait, what? Jamie
But
Lee
that's
Curtis.
not, but that's not rock though.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's
the
just
rap collabs
a
are
rap
better.
and rap collab.
Rap collabs are the best collabs.
What?
And the worst are the okay.
At least give me something like Kendrick Lamar and U2. Don't give me give me
what?
Kanye West and
Elton John and Doja Cat did a song.
No way.
yeah, they did.
Yo, you know what? Like one of the most underrated live covers I've ever seen. Elton John and Axl Rose performing with Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Kanye West did Bohemian Rhapsody.
Okay, that's the best. That's hilarious.
We're getting way off the rails.
But like, since we're going down that route, the only Axl Rose live performance I like is when he did Free Falling with Tom Petty. That was cool.
Is it good?
Yeah, it was good.
Dude, Axl's great.
More Than Words with Steven Tyler and Nuno Betancourt is a beautiful performance.
Dude, did even Extreme Fire Gary?
Really?
No, I'm just joking. Because why isn't the other guy singing it?
Well, did you hear that when Eddie Van Halen died, like his son was saying that they were planning to do a reunion tour with all 3 singers from Van Halen?
No
way. It was going to be like their Taylor Swift Eras tour, where it was going to be like a set with David Lee Roth, a set with Sammy Hagar, and then a set with
yikes.
What's his name? You just
Gary Sharon.
Sharon, yeah.
I feel like that would be way too dense. Would it not?
It would be cool though.
It would be cool, but like
I mean, wait. Isn't it kind of like that last Marvel movie or whatever with like all the Spider-Mans?
Oh yeah, No Way Home.
Yeah.
I mean, but that was a good ass movie though.
So why can't it be a good ass concert?
Fair enough. You brought up a good point.
But only if they did one song each and then went home.
Because like imagine like if a band like the Chili Peppers, if they like did a tour with like Josh and John on guitar.
And
that was all the John tours.
And Dave, yeah, they did like One Hot Minute, and then they do like I'm With You in the Getaway, and then they do all the classic, like that would be cool. I think more bands should do that. Like,
yeah, all the Rage bands should get together and then do all their sets together.
No.
Chris Cornell, Zach, and then the 3 rappers in Prophets of Rage. That'll be sick, right? That's where we're going, right?
and then for good measure, bring Matt Cameron's son in the picture. Icing on the cake.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think we've pretty much wrapped up this episode. We went really off topic, but it was fun. Like, that's all that matters. So
For the whole family.
yeah. Now, before we leave, Tony, are we ready to do our suggestions for next month's album for albums?
Yes.
Eshaan, in case you don't know, Tony and I give each other an album every month that the other person hasn't heard. And they have to listen to it, roughly 3 times before the episode, and then we talk about it.
We usually listen like 10 times, though.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Well, it depends on how much we like the album.
It's good to set a minimum.
Yeah, we do a minimum. Yeah, that way, you can't say oh, I only heard it once. I didn't really like it. There's no excuses. But the Manic Street Preacher one, I really couldn't give more than 4 or 5 listens. Where the Incubus one, I probably listened 10 times because I actually enjoyed it. So I'm ready with mine. I don't know if you decided on yours.
Yes, I'm gonna give you A Holiday in Rhode Island by the Softies. A little bit of an obscure pick.
I don't even know this band. Is it ice cream? Because that's when I think of the Softies, I think of ice cream.
They're a '90s girl duo, and they actually toured with Elliott Smith at one point.
Okay.
So I'll leave you with that, but I won't say no more. I'll let the album speak for
itself.
itself.
So I'm doing the opposite. I'm going really mainstream.
Oh, okay.
I'm giving you your first Bruce Springsteen album, Darkness on the Edge of Town.
Okay.
His 4th studio album. Yeah, I'm not going to say much because I'll just, we'll get to that by the episode. But
I know the title track. I'll say that much.
Yeah, one song. And it's not a super long album, so there's only, I think, 10
Adam
songs.
Raised a Cane on there?
Yes, that one?
I don't know that song. I know the title, though.
I saw that one live. It was epic.
Was it banger?
Yes, it was a banger.
Okay.
That's one that I bet you that's one Tom Morello probably played the solo on when he toured with Bruce because that song has a really, for a Bruce Springsteen song, it has a fierce solo.
Okay.
So I'm sure he did his scratching DJ thing. He probably took the cable out of the amp and did the whole little thing that he does in the master class.
He probably brought out his.
He does that whole thing.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
It's kind of a meme, yeah. It's a meme at this point, but it's a funny meme. Eshaan, do you want to plug anything while you're on this podcast? I mean, only 3 people are probably going to listen, but if you want to give the viewers any places to go check out any of your songs or your work.
Yeah, for all the 3 people listening, check me out at e.e.s.h on Instagram.
All right. Tony, you're cracking up over there. I don't know why.
That was a very long, not, name that's not that long.
I was expecting more. If you're spelling it out, it must be a long name. Okay, we better stop before we get delusional. Okay. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and you'll be hearing from us next week. See you later. Bye-bye.